To the Timeform weekend preview. My name's not Nick Seddon. You're not Jamie Lynch. But the boots are near the foot this week because I'm taking the lazy option of letting you do all the work and I'm going to ask you all the questions. How did it come to this?
Well, I've got the misfortune of doing the rota, and I think this was a week that we struggled to fill.
Yeah.
So
the rotas can be a blessing and a curse when you're in charge of them, definitely.
Absolutely.
So we've got 4 races from Newbury we're going to look at, 1 from Ripon. Are we going to do the pre-morning as well? No, see your face there. No, we're not at all. We're going to start at Newbury. What have we got? Listed race for 2-year-olds, Group 2 Hungerford Handicap, and the Jeffrey Freer. So quite interesting stuff. Start with the 150 at Newbury, which is known to you and me. It's probably the Washington Singer. It's now called the
Denford Stakes.
Denford Stakes. It's not often a stepping stone to better races, generally speaking. You have to go back to Bellardo 2014 for the last subsequent Group 1 winner, and before him it was a bit of a end game rather than the mid part of a horse's makeover. But at the top of the market we've got Boitron and Antonio de Vega, 3 from 3 between them. Boitron's had 2 wins, Antonio de Vega just the 1. Is there any way to discriminate or make a discrepancy between Boitron and Antonio de Vega from the facts and figures?
There certainly is, yeah. I do want to touch on first though. What's Washington Silver? Is that a sponsorship or a
The Washington Singer
even?
Yeah, this was a long time famous race. It used to be
like the Whitbread or something.
Yeah. The Washington Singer. I don't even know exactly what the Washington Singer is, but that's what this race always will be known as in many people's hearts.
Oh, well, I'm afraid it's the Denford for me. I'm showing my age there, I think, but yeah, there's a lot to like about both of them. They both come into the race unbeaten, which is always nice. And in terms of the figures strictly on Timeform ratings anyway, it is Boitron. I hope I pronounced that right.
I think so, Boitron.
Showing the promise of living with a French housemate for 10 months there, I thought.
You lived with a French housemate?
Yeah, the French housemate last year for 10 months, yeah.
What was he called?
She was called. Yeah.
Dear me.
Yeah.
Mon Dieu, mon Dieu.
She told me off for not cleaning. That was...
Really?
Yeah. So Boitron is Timeform top rated here, and 2 from 2 so far. Followed up the debut, won here on debut, followed that up at Doncaster last time, and visually probably wasn't quite as impressive as you'd have hoped. It was a bit more workmanlike, but I think strictly on Timeform figures he didn't improve on that, but gave the impression that was a lot more yet to come. It is a race where the pace forecast is weak, so it'll be interesting to see who makes it.
Yeah.
The Trader is probably a candidate for that.
Yeah, definitely. Mark Johnston also made all the Chester last time, and he's won both his starts since his debut. Yeah, I think you're right that obviously it's Mark Johnston, and what happened at Chester makes you think that he's probably going to force it. But it's not that big a field, is it?
No, not at all. Has he got the record yet? Sorry if I'm being slow. Is he
inches away?
So the Trader, he might be eyeing that up
be good to do it.
To do it on ITV as well. But yeah, I like Boitron. It'd be interesting to see what D'Souza does with him, considering that Antonio de Vega, the other unbeaten runner, who caught the eye when winning, came off the pace that day. So there's an interesting tactical angle there. You imagine that Harry Bentley will try and do the same thing again. Leave it late. In terms of ratings, there isn't too much to separate them. There's only £2 that Antonio de Vega theoretically would have to find with Boitron. Good Fortune's also interesting, got powerful connections. Godolphin, who
won by 10 lengths that last time.
Yeah, absolutely hosed up, didn't he, at Lingfield. Wasn't necessarily the strongest race. It's a big step up in class today into listed company, but he's one of those. He's real eye catcher on paper by new approach. Bought for 150,000 guineas as a yearling, so you would expect him to come on sooner rather than later. So, and you wrote about Godolphin as well, didn't you? Now,
don't throw us back at me. This is your stage.
I know. I'm trying to pass the baton, aren't I? But I do think Boitron is the one they've got to beat here. I think D'Souza will sit just off the Trader. Ryan Moore, I think, will try and make all for Johnston, and I think it could set it up for Boitron. It could. I think we'll make it 3 from 3.
So this is like it's a 2-year-old race. So we don't know the exact abilities or requirements of these horses. That's what makes it difficult. But from what we know so far, we think that the Trader will probably be the front runner, and we think that Boitron brings the best form. But Boitron is still definitely open to improvement. And you mentioned that Doncaster win second time out, which, yeah, he had to work a bit harder than you'd think for a 2-1 on shot. But I always think it's significant when a horse does that on a second start, because sometimes after an impressive debut at this track, such as Boitron did produce, you do often see a horse just recoil from that and not be as impressive second time out, but you give him the benefit of the doubt. It's quite simple, isn't it, that from what we know, Boitron is the best horse in here, and he's certainly got lots of potential. Still, 7-4. Yeah, you couldn't say that's a good price, but you wouldn't say that's a wrong price either.
No, you wouldn't gulp, I don't think, at 7-4. It's probably a fair price. You'd hope that he wasn't back too much tomorrow morning, and yeah, it's probably about fair 7-4. Any shorter, you probably would just watch it. Really.
Yeah, I think so, especially because you don't know exactly how good Antonio de Vega, good fortune, even the trader is right now. So yeah, we're going to learn something from this, aren't we? It's probably one of those where if you were having a betting bank for the Saturday, you just have a small stake, play it in the first race, unlike the second race, I'm hoping, which is the Geoffrey Freer. Good race, isn't it? This is a Group
3.
Group 3. And it's a bit of a meeting of minds in the sense of we've got horses who are coming down in class, we've got horses who are going up in class, up and down in trip. It's a bit of a meeting point. It's got that sort of, we're not there yet, but it feels like an end of season sort of group race in the sense of certain horses are trying to salvage certain things from a Group 3. Who's the Timeform top rated in this as things stand?
It is Dal Harold, who I can never pronounce properly. Is that Harold?
Harold,
yeah. I think as you mentioned there's a nice theme all day tomorrow in that horses are coming into the autumn. There's certain horses later on as well that are slowly getting into gear. It does, and I think this race is interesting in the fact we're at the top of the race card. At least we've got 2 established performers, and then we've also got a few unexposed performers as well that add a bit of spice into it, and it's whether they can improve past them or not. But yeah, it is Dal Harold that sets the standard, and you know, he tried his hand in Group 1 company last time in the Goodwood Cup. Yeah. Found that a bit too hot, but there's no disgrace in that. He just wasn't quite good enough at that level. He's been dropped back down now into Group 3 company, and the one thing with him though, I remember a few weeks ago now at York, he was odds-on favourite to take a Group 3 contest at York, and he never really, I thought it was there for him that day. I didn't think it was the strongest race, and he sort of failed to take the opportunity. He went off in front and got caught that day, and you sort of think that he's vulnerable in this race to one of the 2 improvers who I'll come on to a bit later on.
I did think that, it's hard to put your finger on why he didn't win that York race, having got into pole position in the straight, and he's such a strong stayer and strong galloper that you thought, having got there, he'd seen it out. I sort of was half willing to accept that he'd been off since Dubai, I think, and he might have just been a bit short in the finish, but I don't know, not like William Haggis to leave one short, is it, when that was a good opportunity for him? You'd forgive him that good because I don't think it's probably his track, and obviously he was messing with Stradivarius and Torstar anyway. But yeah, it's hard to get that York out of your mind in the sense of that was probably a better opportunity for him than this. That was a free kick sort of just outside the box, whereas this is a little bit farther out because of the wall of 3-year-olds in front of him. Now, I was just looking at the Timeform ratings. Raymond Tusk is a little far down in a conjunction with his price in the betting. So in the betting, he's more or less joint favourite, and yet in the Timeform ratings, he's only sort of coming in joint 4th, joint 5th, that sort of area. But he's probably still on the up as well, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's one who I really like, Raymond Tusk. He is a bit of a hype horse, and it can be sometimes difficult to jump on. And he's a hype horse because of that eye-catching supplementation. Is that the right word?
Supplementation, yeah.
Into the Eclipse, yeah, where he was dropped in on was it his third career start?
Yeah.
Something like that. And,
that's right.
And he ran as well as he was entitled to really that day. It was 50-1, 66-1 about that. I think he came 6th, earned his fee, got his place money for that. And I thought there was a lot to like about him. I think he's coming on with every start, and the listed win at Hamilton last time out I thought was really impressive. I think that this new trip is very much a newness for him, but I think there's everything to suggest that he will stay.
Oh, yeah.
And if he does, I think he's a big player. I think he is a group horse in the making, and it is a big step up this in terms of both distance and class as well. But I do think that he's a worthy price as he is, particularly considering as well that this is the time of year where 3-year-olds come into the fore against their older rivals. It could be a big advantage.
Definitely. Not many high chaparrals fail for stamina, and he's a high chaparral. And I thought he was impressive at Hamilton because he was really clinical with the way that he settled that race. He still had a bit of a question mark against him. Was, after the eclipse, we were thinking, is he all he's cracked up to be? But he was really good, really decisive at Hamilton, and it felt like he went sort of into the eclipse as a boy and came out a man. And he might put that into more practice here. Godolphin run 2. Walton Street, who is a bit of a jumped up handicapper still. This is the horse at Goodwood who didn't have his cheek pieces on going to the start and therefore couldn't race. And a shorter priced Godolphin or Appleby horse in particular than Walton Street is this Hamada.
Yeah.
Right. Is that a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old?
It's 4 Hamada.
4-year-old, but he hasn't had much racing. And he's won all 3 this year, hasn't he?
And he missed 2017,
Right.
So he's one of these that sort of feels like a 3-year-old,
definitely
but he's 4. And yeah, Walton Street's interesting enough. He was a bit unlucky at Royal Ascot, I remember. He was a bit short of room. Could have been closer that day, but actually, I think you explained him perfectly. He's probably a bit out of his depth in this level. But yeah, Hamada's really interesting. Probably a bit surprised not to see him a bit shorter, really. Three's
joint favourite with the tusk.
Yeah, I'd have probably thought he'd have been a little bit shorter than that. He's on a real roll. He's won his last 3. He's actually on a 4-timer that spans 2 years because he scored at Ponty back in is it like October?
So he's unbeaten for 2 years. That's the strap line.
Unbeaten for 2 years. Again, powerful connections for Godolphin, and it was interesting, as I read in the Timeform report on the back of his last win, that he became a contender for the Ebor. He probably think he probably won't go there next week now with this what's the word? Can't think of the word. Engagement. There you go. Engagement.
Supplementation.
Supplement. Yeah, coming out with some nice words.
It does tell us that. I did write about Godolphin this week, and one thing I didn't get into was more to do with the trainers and the general policy, but it just goes to show this, doesn't it, that group races are the be-all and end-all for Godolphin. He's got a really good chance in handicapping terms in the Ebor. Even Walton Street, you'd have expected him more in a race like that, but they're not that concerned about winning high-value handicaps. It's much more in the group races, even Group 3s such as this is. If you had to guess which one's going to go off favourite, joint favourites now or is it Friday evening, Hamada and Raymond Tusk, are you just thinking that Hamada might be the stronger in the betting?
I would at this point. I think it would be interesting to see whether the money does come for Raymond Tusk. I think they both got very similar profiles. They're both uply mobile. They're both entitled to be favourite for this race. So it could be the thing that the market gives you the real clue.
Yeah.
But they're probably about the right positions. I would have probably had Hamada about 5-2 rather than 3s. But
Well, that's why you've said that. So that's the reason I'm thinking that you are.
But
non-committally edging towards Hamada.
I am in terms of thinking he's shorter in the race, but I do really like Raymond Tusk, and I think that the door's open for him to go past these really and into bigger and better things. And
so even though the Tusk is the 3-year-old, it feels like Hamada's a 3-year-old as well.
Yeah.
And for that, or to that end, we don't quite know the limits of these horses. The suspicion is that they're going to go past Al Harailed and Algometer, given that they're more or less at a standstill in their careers, but trying to decipher which one isn't that easy.
True, although it is worth saying for Algometer, he is a mix of the old and the new, really, because he's been slowly but surely eked into this discipline. He's pushed into this trip, and he proved he stayed at Longchamp last time. He was second in a Group 2, so he's eased in grade slightly. So he's definitely going to be bang there in the end of the race, particularly if one of the 2 unexposed ones don't find as much as we were hoping.
I thought Algometer might have won this once upon a time. It's a sort of race that he tends to come good in.
Interesting though that Defoe won this last year, considering that the Tusk is a 3-year-old with the St Ledger sort of.
And Defoe won the Glasgow Stakes at Hamilton, the same race on his way in. So yeah, that is a good line of inquiry to detect a bit more into. How about the 3 o'clock at Newbury, which is a 7-furlong handicap? Few 3-year-olds in this, talking in the last race about the mix of 3-year-olds and older horses, and you're right to say that this is the time of the year when the 3-year-olds are of added interest, just because they get an allowance because they're perceived to be immature, but by this stage of its season, of its life, a 3-year-old is more like the finished article. So it just feels like they're pinching a bit of an advantage. And Mystic Flight and Rogue are 2 3-year-olds from just a handful who are amongst the top 3 in the betting. Mystic Flight's really not one out here, isn't he, in the sense of he's had only 3 races and won 2 of them. Just an odd horse to see in a race like this. But you got that question, haven't you, of the shock factor in the sense of Mystic Flight has never been in this sort of environment before, and what impact will that have on him? Is he Timeform top rated or not?
Mystic Flight is a no. It's Sabrador. It's actually got a few pounds to find.
Mystic Flight, that's really interesting because it is his handicap debut and he is favourite, and the natural assumption is, well, he's the other one out and therefore that's all positive, but he has got a few pounds to find, which suggests, or should tell you at home, that it's not going to be straightforward for this in any sense, because he's got to improve just to reach the standard that the others are at in handicapping terms.
Yeah, powerful connections as well, Roger Varian.
What do we know about this race from a cursory look at the field?
Well, the first thing you sort of see is the pace forecast, something that if you write for Timeform.com's features section, you become very versed about, because we love a pace map preview at Timeform, and crikey, this is going to be a burn-up. 18 runners, and 9 of them are a 1 or a 2 on our in-place.
So half of the field is a prominent racer, effectively.
Effectively, yeah. 3 of those are 1s as well, which means they want to be bang
one-dimensional, more or less.
And it's interesting that 2 of them you've mentioned as well, in Mystic Flight and Rogue, are about as close to 1 as you can get, really, because the 0.7 and 0.8. So it's going to be really fast, really frenetic, and as such, I sort of find myself looking down the field.
Yeah, good way into the race.
Yeah.
So we want a hold-up horse who's a little bit under the radar, who might spring to life given the specific dynamics of this race. Go.
Yeah, well, we've talked about 3-year-olds and how they have an impact, and I'm going to completely contradict myself here in the fact that I've found an 8-year-old that might be worth a look at. I think he's 22s at the moment. He's a long way down the race card. Gold Hunter. The fact that he tends to sit off the pace, and he's in reasonable heart at the moment. He won in really good style about 3 starts ago at Chepstow. He's been running reasonably well since, and the main angle with this is the fact that it's going to be a burn up. He's run well off this mark in the past. Finley Marsh is a really good claimer. Takes a useful £5 off. And if they go silly like I'm hoping they will, I'm hoping that the fact that he's in good heart at the moment, he can pick up the pieces, but it really is a dart in what is a shocker.
I like that though. It's a well-reasoned dart. He's an 8-year-old, but he'd never had that much race in his life, Gold Hunter. He was with Godolphin early in his career, and the sort of wheels came off at various stages, and he found himself going around the country. But he sort of found his later life home with Adrian Wintle, and I do like your thinking with this, in that a lot of the field and a lot of the fancied horses seem to be set in the ways in terms of prominent races, and when there's that many cooks spoiling the broth, then it can sometimes pay to think a little bit outside the box. So Gold Hunter, that's a really good dart with really good reasoned analysis by you. We come to some firmer ground in theory. Group race, this is the Hungerford. No Group 1 races in Britain over 7 furlongs, and that's why the likes of the Lennox, the likes of the Hungerford, and the likes of the Park Stakes coming up at Doncaster are so well subscribed. And you'd be forgiven for thinking, just glancing at the top of the market and the top of the ratings, that this was more like a Group 1, really, wouldn't you?
Oh, you absolutely would. I mean, the first horse in that springs to mind is Labrisa Breeze, who won the Champion Sprint last year at Ascot. And we talked earlier on about how there's an autumnal feel to some of these horses today, and he's the absolute epitome of that, because the softer it gets, the darker, the earlier it gets darker, the happier Labrisa Breeze is. You probably get the feeling, I mean, he's coming into this as a class act, a former Group 1 winner, and he ran really well last time at Deauville. It was a season's best on our figures, but you probably get the feeling that he is going to be more tuned up later on in the year. His targets will be the Sprint Cup at Haydock and the Champion Sprint again at Ascot to defend his crown, so this might be another tune-up race.
He was second in the race last year. It was a bit of a stepping stone rather than the end game, because he's obviously got bigger and better targets ahead.
Absolutely.
So he's got the tools and the talent to win this for sure. But it is in the back of your mind of like lessons from history, in the sense of this horse comes good or comes best and is sort of campaigned that way now. So this Group 2 is an important race, but not the absolute target for the Breeze.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to say could win it. He's got the talent to win. He's Timeform top rated as well. He's a pound clear of everyone, but you probably will think that it'd be later on. I think Haydock Park will be the main aim for him.
Yeah. What do you think of Gustav Klimt? I think he's a hard horse to love.
Yeah, I mean, I like him because I like him for that run at Newmarket last year. In the superlative that was absolutely bonkers.
When he tripped over and still won.
He ran about 1.5 miles that day and still managed to win. And
long time ago, that.
I know, yeah. It was July Cup Day last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. July Stakes it was.
Yeah.
Or superlative it was, wasn't it? Sorry.
That's the one, yeah. And I thought the interesting thing about this, I was looking at Nick Doggett's preview for this race on Tuesday. And he mentioned that Aidan O'Brien had never had a runner in this. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not misquoting that.
Desperate measures. He's desperate to win any group race.
Yeah.
No Aidan.
It's interesting, and this one is sort of. I mean, he's been really busy so far, and he's actually run reasonably well. He's pretty much been campaigned in loftier levels. And he was second in the St James Palace, third in the Prix Jean Prat. So.
It's odd, isn't it, when you look at that horse, he's trained by Aidan O'Brien. He was almost a champion at 2. And this year he's finished placed in the St James's Palace, an Irish Guineas, Prix Jean Prat, beaten 2 lengths in the Sussex Stakes. When you read his CV on paper, it's really good, isn't it? But I don't know, there's something that would stop me short of saying between sort of 9-4 and 5-2 that he's a backable horse.
Yeah, for all that I agree with you, I do think that he's the one I probably would side with, but I wouldn't back him. I do think that he's the one to beat here. I can only apologise for a cruddy analogy, but he strikes me as the sort of horse where you get into you're in the last 4 of the FA Cup, and this is Arsenal, and they've got Wigan, Fulham, and Sheffield United.
It's theirs to lose.
Yeah, and sort
Wigan. It's a long time ago now.
2014, mate. Got beat on penalties by Arsenal.
Yeah. I can. So all right, I totally get this now. So yeah, even though you're comparing Gustav to Arsenal, there's a bit of a Wigan love in there, and it's equally a long time since Wigan have shone or Gustav Klimt has shone, but there's still remaining rays of hope that they might well bounce back to the glory days.
Shameless plug for Wigan Athletic there, really, isn't there? But you just sort of get the feeling that he should be winning this race. To be honest, he's got these. If he runs to the level he's been running to, I think he'd be very difficult to beat. But if he doesn't, you sort to question his attitude, don't you?
He's certainly drinking the last chance saloon, you think, dipping down to a Group 2, dipping down to 7 furlongs as well. We haven't mentioned Seddon a lot, but the reason why you think, well, he won the Lennox last time, why aren't you talking about this horse who won probably an equal standard race as this? The structure of this Group 2 means that obviously he's got a hefty penalty for that, so he has to give weight all round. So it's a slightly different game that he's got to play compared to Goodwood. And you saw how Goodwood sort of fell for him, in that he was snaking through and just hit the line in that narrow window of opportunity he had. So he's obviously a really talented horse. It's just that he's got a bit more on his plate, regarding the setup of this race, but also the actual terms and conditions with the weight he's got to carry.
Yeah, and the same can be said. Not quite in terms of the weight, but for Brett and Rock as well. They're both likely to run the races. They're both really likeable, and they're probably both will give it a good go.
Yeah, but you think the Klimt?
Yeah, I mean, at one point I didn't make, as it's worth noting that he's 3 from 3 in his career over 7 furlongs. He's generally been running over a mile. And
it might just stimulate him, mightn't it?
And he has. We saw already his career. He's got plenty of speed.
And Ryan's on him.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not convinced.
But he's drinking the last chance saloon, isn't he? He's ordering a whiskey.
I mean, Yafta's interesting. If they gave him if they set him out to give him an uncontested lead, but he's going to need more.
If you say that, or I do believe that Gustav Klimt is a hard horse to love, Yafta is an easy horse to love. So genuine, so generous, so straightforward, and so progressive. I mean, this is reaching for the stars in terms of where he's been and where he's going, up against sort of proper Group 2, even Group 1 horses. But he's a tremendous 3-year-old like Yafta.
You'd think that Johnston trained him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he would actually. Yeah, he would.
He's like
he runs more or less twice a month and just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
He's like a Johnston horse without the yo-yo and without the sort of downward spirals of the roller coaster. Sorry, Mark Johnston, I know you're coming to a landmark record. So yeah, tricky, isn't it, Newbury? It's not going to get any easier because we're going to head to Ripon for the great St Wilfird. I've got a good staff here for the Great St Wilfird, which might or might not affect your final conclusion. It's Northern Handicap, and normally we used to high value Northern Handicaps being plundered by Southern Raiders. But since 2009, which is how many years ago?
I did my GCSEs that year.
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years. Yeah.
How many? Don't tell me the exact. But how many grades of A or B did you get in total?
7.
Stay close to him, no wonder he's in the hot seat today. But since 2009, since the days of the GCSE, Northern trainers have won this every single year. 3 for O'Mara, 2 for Fahy, 1 for Smart, 1 for Richard Whittaker, and 1 for Tim Easterby last year, Matmu. I think that Tim Easterby, with his big 2 in particular, has got a really strong chance here. Flying, Pursuit, and Golden Apollo.
Yeah, there's sort of Timeform sirens all over Golden Apollo, isn't there? He's top rated and he's got a horse in focus flag
this
as well.
This is not going to end well, is it?
No. Yeah, if you're a race passage user and you go on the dashboard, it's always fun to see all the Timeform sirens flying for certain runners. And to be fair, more often than not, they do come to fruition. Yeah. So nice little plug. But this is almost like a this is almost like a mirror image, really, of the Newbury race, which I think is 15 minutes early, if my memory serves me correctly, in that it's going to be a total burn-up. Is there 20 runners in this? There are 11 of them are 1s and 2s are in play figures. Some of them more fancy than others. Kimberella is the shortest one, most prominent in the betting for that. And I mean, we talked about horses that are really likeable. He's really likeable for all that he's been on a real barren run of late. He got back on track at Chester last time, and he's got a really good attitude as well. He's, I mean, the big thing about him is the mark that he's got to defy. He's running off
105, I think. Is it 105?
105, yeah. I mean, I looked through...
But he has run handicaps off 109 and even 110 in his time.
Yeah.
It's not alien to him to carry big weights.
Not at all. I think the fact that this race is so stacked with competition is that it's going to be difficult to defy a mark like 105. Yeah. I look back at since 2010, so the last decade, I think that's right saying. Nothing's won off more than 100. And that was last year. That was Manu.
Yeah.
So
is that right?
Yeah.
5 horses in this are off marks of 100 or more. So it's a top-ended handicap. Interesting that those 3 of the 5 who are running off marks of 100 are in the Timeform sort of top 5 in terms of our ratings. Therefore, expressing the best handicapped horses. So it's interesting that just the Timeform figures generally are telling you to look towards the top end of the handicap, which includes Kimberella. And spring loaded as well, but spring loaded, I mean, we talk about group horses in handicaps. He is going to have to be a group horse right now to defy a mark of 107 and a real term weight of 9 stone 10.
Yeah, I mean, he has given vibes, hasn't he? That he's flirted with being a group horse in the past, and there's loads of form from both the Stewards Cup and York as well in here, and he's won from the Stewards Cup, left it a bit too late, sort of flew home in the I mean, potentially it could be doing all the best work late on. It could set up well for him if they go an absolutely catastrophic pace up top. He could be one of the ones who picks up the pieces, but you look at the weight he's got to carry in a race like this, it's so competitive, it just looks eye-watering. For all that he might be one of the ones who's flying home late on, you probably think that there'll be at least one that's better treated than him.
What's the best bet for you in this race?
I mean, I was looking at this for ages. I think the ones that I like are all quite near each other in the race card.
In the race card?
Yeah, race card in the race card. Yeah, not the draw. Yeah. Because I've sort of printed off the Timeform race card. I thought it was the easiest way to scribble down
Piper's
things.
Note. Has he won 8 times at Ripon?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean he's completed a double here recently, and I thought he was really interesting. He's coming here with solid course form, and he's got a really good attitude as well. He battled all the way to the line last time out, and he's run well off this mark in the past. He's won off 98, which he's on in the past as well. So I am a sucker for an improver.
Well, you say
but
that.
I think he's more of a renaissance.
You say you're a
improver.
sucker for an improver, but how old is Piper's Nose?
Well, he's 8. So
how old is Kimberella?
Kimberella's 8.
How old is Gold Hunter?
12,000 probably. Yeah, I can't
You've
remember.
got a fixation with 8-year-olds.
Yeah, but it isn't the one I'm going to make a case for here. So that was sort of a nice tie-in. That he was a renaissance horse, I think, rather than an improver.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's difficult to get away from Golden Apollo, who's one above him in the race card, and he was only just denied by his stablemate Flying Pursuit last time at York. Which it's really good form, and
he was just playing catch up with Flying Pursuit there. Flying Pursuit did a solo, and he's really good at that, Flying Pursuit. And I think the Golden Apollo, he was sort of dancing to his tune that day, and this time it's sort of more his playground in the sense of a big field where he can weave his way through.
Absolutely.
These races frighten me to death, but I'm absolutely convinced that Golden Apollo is going to be in the first 4.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's going to suit him a lot better. I think Flying Pursuit is really unlikely to get it his own way this time around.
Definitely,
because there's so many of them up there that are going to make the race. I mean, he is 6th down when it comes to horses that like to be prominent. So, you know, he's going to find it difficult, even drawn in 14. So I just think that it could very well set up for Golden Apollo, who can gain compensation. But I mean, we can talk all day about it. It took me about 30 minutes to go through this race, and
I had one other positive point about Golden Apollo. That's because we talked about the draw, but the field will split. It's very rare that Ripon that they all converge down the middle as one arrowhead, and he is drawn next to, out of all the front runners, perhaps the most frontiest runner of all. He's in 9, so the horse in 8 or 10. Who's in 8 or 10?
No, Henley's in 6.
No,
Ice Age is in 10.
Ice Age.
Yeah.
So it's a quite simple equation for David Allen in that you can just follow Ice Age safe with the knowledge that at least he's going to give you a good tour and a good gallop, and sort of let the rest worry about themselves. Whereas I think it's a real help that he's drawn next to Ice Age, and that just adds to my misplaced confidence that Golden Apollo's going to be in the certainty to be in the first 4.
Price is Brian the Snail.
The all or nothing Brian the Snail, 25s.
Goodness me, I mean, I've even got here written on remember him, because last year, was it last year, the year before, he was like the
Commonwealth
next big
Cup,
thing, wasn't it?
Commonwealth Cup, here we come,
and
then he's just had like a if you attached him to a heart monitor, it would just be a flat line followed by one spike, unusual spike.
I remember seeing him the day Harry Angel dotted up at Haydock last May. I think it was last May in the.
Haydock, that's right.
Not the Temple Stakes, the
Sandy Lane.
That's the one. And Brian the Snail was out the back of the TV that day, I think.
Yeah. That's his natural home, the back of the TV. Every now and then he'll come to the front of the TV. Rather like your good self today.
Yeah, absolutely. Picked the world's worst shirt for it.
That's why we've got to turn the lights down in here, because your shirt otherwise would take over everything. So, final thoughts, final roundup of the great SW.
Horrendous. Get a dart if you really have to throw a dart. I think Golden Apollo. I think it will set up well for him. Again, going from the angle that it's going to be very, very quick, very fast, frenetic, and provided he gets a bit of luck in running, as you say, he's going to get a good toe into it with Ice Age, who's kamikaze. So
what do you call that horse of Wintel's in the 20-to-1 chance at Newbury? Is it Gold Hunter?
Gold Hunter, I think. Yeah. Another go back through. Gold Hunter.
If you did the gold double of Gold Hunter and Golden Apollo, would we see you on work on Monday or not?
Well, I'd be expecting
20. What is it? 10-to-1, 12-to-1, 10-to-1 Apollo, and 20-to-1 at least. Even the poorest mathematician can work out that's
a lot.
It's a lot.
I'd be expecting a hero's welcome.
You don't get them.
No.
Halifax. Good. Anything else at Newbury? I mean, not anything else, but anything to recap? No,
not really. It's I think all eyes are on York, really, without being too rude to tomorrow's racing.
Are we having daily previews next week?
I don't think so. No, generally they coincide with the microsites, so we're all right until Cheltenham.
Oh, yeah, all right. Good. So, next Friday.
Yeah, next
Next
Friday.
Friday, someone will be here.
I don't know who. I think it's Matt Garney, you know.
Is it?
Yeah,
That's
exciting.
the Lord Mayor show, isn't it? Oh no, it's the Ebor and stuff on the Saturday.
Yeah,
isn't it,
he's
of course,
got
yeah.
the
Oh,
plum
yeah.
draw. Yeah,
That's a brilliant one to tune in for. So sorry if we've let you down this week, but we've tried our hardest. We've come up with some great darts, I think, from Nick, and very well done.
Thank you very
in your
much,
first day in the spotlight. That's it from us. We'll see you next week for a big York special.